Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome not just a good friend, a former colleague, but a very tall and senior corporate leader from the world of human resources for a second time from Gurgaon, India, talking to us today from California, Mr. Aadesh Goyal. Aadesh, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ashutosh, so good to meet you again. And you said it right. Good friends go back to 90s. We worked together at Hughes
I know.
Software Systems. Always great
Absolutely.
to catch up.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Adesh is an advisory board member. He's a digital and transformation HR expert. He's a board director. He works on future of work, and he's a global CHRO. He has also focused a lot of his work on M&A and integration, sustainability, CSR, happiness, leadership, and he's a leadership facilitator. And today, he and I are going to speak about the future of human resources. So, Adesh, let's jump straight into the topic.
Yeah.
What major trends do you see in the future of work?
So actually, it's very hard to say, so many things are happening. So I'm going to talk about all of them a little bit, right? I think the first one is technology today has made things possible which weren't possible even 3 years ago.
Mm.
And it's only really our imagination which can drive what's possible. So I think the future of HR strategy is primarily an intelligent platform, like an Amazon or a Netflix, where different users for different needs and with different personas can fulfill their needs on their own without asking anybody. Right?
Mm.
So whether it comes to on-demand learning, on-demand career planning, on-demand work on gig projects, etc., right? So it has consumer-grade experience. It is intelligent. It is hyper-personalized for every user.
Mm.
So I think today this is the most amazing part, right? And I see this driving a very, very different people in HR strategy and future of work. So that's one
Mm.
angle,
Mm.
and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. I think the second angle is while virtuality has been evolving for the last few years and technology has been enabling it, but I think the big force multiplier came because of the pandemic. Now, everybody knows virtual work and remote work is possible, and hybrid is really the new way of working. I believe that very few organizations are going to be where people work only in person, and very, very few organizations where people work only remote, right?
Mm.
Those will be the two ends of the normal curve, right? Which will be
Mm.
the outliers.
Right.
Most companies will work in a hybrid manner. And hybrid is not something any one of us is an expert in, right? So we grew up, depending on what your age is, all of us grew working in person, whether it is in school, whether it's in university, whether it's at work. And all our skills and capabilities have got refined and developed like that, right? And so is for technology.
Mm.
But if you see as a manager, how do you manage a hybrid workforce? Some people participating virtually, some people participating, in person, right? Or even as colleagues, that's something that I think we are all learning. And hybrid technology is really still not there, right? While we're chatting, it is good for one-on-one. But if it is something that a brainstorming that we have to do, where half the people are in person, half in virtual, it becomes very, very hard to pull it off.
Correct. Correct.
So I think those are the two main things that are there. And
Mm.
I think the third thing I would add is because of technology, there are many new roles emerging, right? And the second is a vast majority of the roles are getting changed,
Mm.
say because of say AI and also because of generative AI.
Mm.
I think a few roles are going to become redundant. And how do we cope up with that? Is really where the future of work lies.
Mm. Great response. But Arish, the other aspect that I wanted to get your perspective as someone who spent such a long time and runs so many HR, been in so many HR leadership roles, is that given the diversity of work that is taking place in terms of hybrid work, work from home, the gig economy. Um, how do HR leaders or HR departments manage this complexity of so many different people in so many different areas, all working for a similar goal?
Yeah. So I would say that, HR organization needs to be a products and platform organization.
Right.
Just being functional experts is not enough, right?
Mm,
So you cannot say that, this is the way we do employee engagement, this is the way we do performance management. We need to create products that are impactful, right? For example, at Tata Communications, we created a gig platform more than 8 years ago, right? And that gig platform allowed any manager to put a project, and any of the employees in 40 plus countries could do that. It was intelligent, it could do matching, and people could really practice what they had learned. And they could also, if they want to do a project for which they didn't have the skills, they could actually learn while they are doing that project. Right?
mm,
So it's something that you let people and communities do stuff which you have not even imagined. Right? Same
mm,
thing about on-demand learning.
right.
That it's possible for people to learn from wherever they are. We have seen that people are now learning on weekends. People are
Mm,
learning when they're traveling. People are learning when they're commuting.
mm,
And over the last 5 years, the amount of learning has actually trebled,
mm,
right? So people are really passionate about learning. So how do you create great products and really create future impact through that is really where HR is, because people are going to be using it from wherever they are at any time that they want.
mm.
Some people will be remote, some people will be in person. So everybody needs to get the same experience. So that's where I think the future is.
Very well said. A few minutes back, Adesh, you spoke about AI and the what it is doing in terms of changing all organizations. From an HR perspective, how do you envision the role of AI and machine learning in the future of human resources?
Yeah. So I think it's like I said, only imagination is the limit.
Mm,
So, for example, there's this new concept of on-demand career planning, right? So, uh, there are solutions available today using which you can create a very detailed skill profile of an employee automatically based on the work that they're doing, the projects that they're doing, and they have done. And if you're able to, if the employee loads their CV, then it becomes even sharper
mm,
to the extent that it can even, you know, guess what the proficiencies are for different skills, right? And then the employee has a chance to validate it, the manager has a chance to validate it, but the system works regardless, right?
mm.
Now, using this at any given time, just like Google Maps, you could say, hey, I want to see what opportunities are available for me to move laterally, right?
Correct.
Or vertically, or diagonally.
Mm,
And when you take any of these paths, it will show you the matches
mm,
for different roles that already exist in the company or are open. And if you double click on any of those, it'll show the skill gap.
mm,
If you double click on the skill gaps, it will show you what learning interventions you could do to bridge those gaps. And then you double click on that, then it's, you can begin your journey right there, right?
right.
So it gives you a chance for every employee to explore different pathways and then decide which ones that they want to focus on. So they're not limited by, okay, I have a choice like this or I have a choice like this, right? So
Mm,
they can just move anytime that they want based on what's available. I
mm,
think the even more important thing is I talked about the new roles, the futuristic roles that are going to emerge.
yeah.
Right? So it's possible now to define a new role or an existing role which has changed
Mm,
and put it out there in the ecosystem as a future role, right? Automatically, it'll match with the employees. It'll alert them that, hey, this is a role that's going to happen in future. These are new skills it requires. There's a match. If you have interest, you can start preparing for taking up this role in future. So
mm,
when that role actually comes 12 months or 18 months later, the employees, more and more employees are going to be ready for it. It's like
mm,
lots of ships starting their journeys to various destinations. And by the time, the destination is there, their berth to land there is ready, right? So it's like
Correct.
ability to connect the dots in future exists today. So
Very
these are
well
just
said.
two examples
Yeah.
of how AI is already changing
Hmm.
what's possible in the organizations today.
Very well said. The other aspect is, you were just telling me that, say, when in the time Tata's, you implemented a gig, you understood the requirements of gig many, many years ago, and 8 years ago, you implemented something. There are still many companies where they're not yet anywhere near this situation when it comes to human resources. For my viewers and listeners, Adesh, tell me what are some of the key benefits of implementing a digital strategy in HR?
See, digital today is very important. I would say critical.
Hmm.
And different companies are going to start on this at different points of time because that's how change happens.
Correct.
The reason this is most important is that there isn't any business which is not impacted by technology.
Hmm.
And if technology is impacting your business, only technology can give you solution, right?
Hmm.
And really skills and people and roles are really at the center of any work that can be done or any strategy that can be pursued.
Hmm.
So without a digital strategy, there is actually no HR strategy today. So I would say begin, begin small and keep experimenting and keep moving forward because
Hmm.
you really suddenly do a big bang when you do stuff like this, right? So slice by slice, keep experimenting.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're going to fail, sometimes you're going to succeed, and keep building on the success and failures and keep moving ahead.
Very well said. My next question is, coming back to the hybrid work environment, how can companies ensure equal opportunities and inclusivity in a hybrid work environment, especially because almost everybody seems to be working from home 2 days a week?
Yeah. So I think the beauty of the pandemic is that it has created a new hybrid model, which really didn't exist earlier in at a mass scale, right? It
Mm,
existed, but not at a mass scale. Now, the only way you can provide an equal opportunity
mm,
is really using technology, right?
mm,
So whether you're in office or whether you are working remotely, can you learn, right? Can you participate in programs where participation requires multiple people, right?
mm,
So whether it's gig work, whether it is other work, with innovation, similarly for career, right? Or if you are, going to recognize your peers or other people that you're working with,
mm,
you should be able to do it irrespective of where you are. It doesn't need a conference room or a coffee break
mm, mm.
to create a recognition. So everything needs to be technology driven and available there. Right?
Right.
So that's really what is key for bringing inclusivity, equal opportunities, and bringing everybody on the same page. Now,
Mm,
how different people use it is really up to them, right? You can take the horse to the water, but you can't really force to drink it. So different people are
right.
going to do it in different ways.
Mm,
And I think this itself is leading to a lot of innovation on how different people are using the same system, which was not even visualized by the product manager.
mm, Well said. And I was just thinking back as you were talking also, and I remember, when I was in leadership roles in different companies, I used to do what was called management by walking around. You know, take your cup of coffee at 9:30 in the morning, go and sit with somebody, talk, go and stand in the middle of the office with somebody as a photocopier, whatever. In a situation where of remote work settings, what are some of the best practices HR can adopt to maintain employee engagement and productivity?
Yeah. I think the first best practice I would say is that um, only virtual work model
Hmm,
is is okay for doing outlier type of work which is on the periphery.
hmm,
It's really not scalable because it does not create opportunity of this type, right?
hmm,
Only organized meetings and everybody has when they're available, when they're not available. That's why, 2 to 3 days in office is necessary. I think the second is what we do in office needs to change, right? You cannot come to the office and sit in your office desk or cubicle or a conference room and participate in, Zoom calls or team calls all day long, right? That would have been done from home.
Correct.
So we need to organize stuff differently. That when people come to work, then they're doing collaboration, they're doing interaction, we're doing brainstorming, we're doing problem solving, we're doing team building, because so that type of technology and processes need to change, policies need to change so that people can work with each other in person for the types of things that we are calling them for, right? And similarly, intelligent allocation of office, right? So people who work together, see, most employees work with 10, 15, 20 employees on a daily basis. So it's important then, we create groups of people when they come to office. These are for everyone, these are the main people who they work with, right? And if dynamically office is allocated to them, desk is allocated to them, then it's allocated in a way that they are near each other. Right? And if you say, hey, why don't you, here's a conference room, you can organize a brainstorming session over lunch, right? You can order it from cafeteria, it will come there, etc., etc. So I think these are the types of ideas, which will make sure that when people come to office, they are doing things which are not possible when they work remotely.
Very interesting. And a follow-up question to what you just told me is also, I'd also love to get your thoughts on, in a hybrid environment, how will organizations be able to build a strong corporate culture?
Yeah. So, culture is going to take a new form, right? How it gets created. So if you see people, imbibe a culture by observing, by, seeing other people do it, and, some amount of education and reinforcement, right? And when, it's like about catching people doing something right. Now, whatever we are able to do in person doesn't need to change. But how do we now reimagine doing that in a virtual manner, right? So, for example, can we organize coffee chats virtual, right? Rather than a brown bag session happening, around a table, can we organize it, in a virtual manner? And as immersive reality and virtual reality become a little bit more common and available to everyone without, special equipment, I think it will take a really new form. So, for example, one way of culture is how do you share learning with each other?
Right.
So, if you're able to create an internal movement where existing employees sign up to be trainers and facilitators, and rather than doing it in person, they can start doing it in a virtual manner. Right? So, if everybody teaches for one day in a year, right, in a company of 1,000 people, if 10 people even attend it, you're going to have 10,000 learning days just from this.
Correct.
And when people get together for stuff like learning, all kinds of magic happens. So, examples like this are actually being done by many, many companies already.
Very well said. So, time for 2 or 3 more questions.
Yes.
My next question for you, Aadesh, is that, one of the things that a lot of HR leaders have supported as CHROs, the CEOs, is to build a strong employer brand, because that's an amazing talent pool that gets attracted because of a strong employer brand. How can organizations build a strong employer brand in a digital world?
So actually the same concept that apply to a company or a product apply to the employer brand as well.
Correct.
I think the first and foremost is what type of experiences people are having. Right? Now, experiences of people are related to learning, are related to, what opportunities they're getting for career planning, how their other needs are being served when they have an issue, is it getting solved, etc., etc. Right? Now, the more we create digital platforms, and products for serving these needs
Mm.
and hyper personalizing it using intelligence,
Mm.
we are able to create much better relevance and impact for every employee.
Mm.
Now, when you do that, people are going to talk about good stuff and bad stuff whenever they experience it. Right? The more good stuff you are able to create, the more people are going to discuss that among the employees. Then they're going to discuss it with their friends and family. And today, everybody wants to talk about their experiences on social media. Right? When people have good experiences, they're going to talk about it in the social media. So I think that is one big thing that all employers need to encourage. And the type of chat you and I are having, companies are already doing this. Take any employee and interview them for 2 or 3 minutes and share their experiences on the company's social platform, and some of this even outside.
Mm.
So the same exact concepts apply to the employer brand that apply to any other topic.
Amazing. Amazing. Two more questions. Given all your experience, what qualities and skills do you think will define a successful HR leader in the future?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost is that every HR person needs to be a good business person. They need to understand how business runs, how companies' product work, how operations work, etc., etc. The more you understand, the better impact you're going to create. Right? So I would say everybody must do at least one business role, non-HR role in their career, early in their career, and if possibly twice, because it's very, very important thing, right? It's like if you go to a general physician, they're going to look at your issue in a broad manner and figure out what the issue is, right? But if you go to a neurosurgeon directly, chances are they're going to try to correlate your symptoms to anything to do with neuroscience.
Correct.
So HR, if you're just an HR person, you're going to look at every issue with that HR lens, right? I think HR needs to come later. So you need to be a business person who specializes in solving problems using HR and not the other way around. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is you need to be really technology savvy, because all solutions today need to use technology.
Right.
So one must be really savvy on figuring out how multiple technologies can be used to solve problems, because those problems then be solved in a much more hyper personalized way, much more scalable and much more sustainable. Those are two main things. And the third thing I would say is that rather than implementing just projects and programs, think like a product manager. Think about the long-term impact you're going to make. So, for example, this business partnership and being a close business ally is a good thing. But if somebody gets limited only by this, then it's a very, very myopic thing, in my opinion, right? So if anybody talks to any of the business leaders or managers about, what they're losing sleep on, they're typically talking about yesterday's issue, which is not solved today, or today's issue, or tomorrow's issue in the next few weeks. Now, if that's all business partnering is all about, we are going to be continuously, in a way, taking care of now. Right? Most big changes need to be made in the future, 1 or 2 years from time. That's much time they take to make, right? For that, you have to start imagining what the future requirements are. Nobody knows. Nobody's going to be able to give it to you. So that's why taking the responsibility for the future, taking the risk, having the courage to do it, and creating products that will solve the problems in future. That I would say would be the third skill.
Great points. Great points. And on that note, Aadesh, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. Your vast experience of HR has given us some really great point to think about on the future of human resources. We covered a lot of ground. I picked up some very interesting thoughts from you today. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh, for inviting me, and it's always great to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast. A platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.